Hello, everyone, and welcome to Latino USA TV, Arizona Barrio Stories. I'm Alex Juarez with AARP Arizona, and AARP Arizona brings you this show today. As you can see, Irma Payan is not here today. She's taking a little break for this segment. If you recall, the last shows we've talked about fraud, the AARP Fraud Watch Network, how you can stay safe. We've given you tips on how to freeze your credit, and some of the top issues with fraud and scams. Well, let me tell you about it. Today's show is going to be very special because we have a very special guest, Anita Ritter. Who doesn't know Anita Ritter here in Arizona? Everybody knows Anita. It's like, yes, we love Anita. Anita has been a volunteer with AARP for years and years, and she's been a phenomenal volunteer for AARP Arizona. This weekend, I received a call from Anita letting me know that she had received a call, or she had received a couple of emails as well, which probably, Anita is very savvy with technology and she's pretty savvy about fraud. Well, guess what? Anita was in for probably a scam, fraud going on. So let me welcome Anita Ritter. Thank you so much, Anita, for being here today. We really appreciate you. Really special that you're here today so you can tell us in real life your story of what happened with these calls and these emails that you received. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to see you again, Alex.
Why don't you start by telling us what exactly happened?
Well, actually, it was kind of a shock. I walked around for 3 days after crying and not sleeping. What happened is I was on the computer doing my usual American Legion business reports, and I got a notice from Microsoft. And at least I thought it was Microsoft at the time. And it told me that I had been hacked, that there was a virus on my computer. And then on my screen, all of a sudden it popped up. It took about half of my screen, supposedly all the viruses that were on there, and all the websites that I had been visiting, and they included child pornography, financial, that I was attempting to defraud using other people's financial information, just a variety. I was just so upset. So Microsoft at that time tells me, contact this number.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the name of the gentleman and the phone number, all the contact information, I checked on my cell phone. I got on the internet and I checked that this was the correct name. This was the correct phone number, because I didn't want to believe that it was.
So you did what you needed to do.
I did.
Exactly. You researched.
Well, a little bit of research. And I found that the name of this man, James Parikh, was the Assistant Deputy Commissioner of Social Security under fraud and risks.
So they had the name of the person in charge.
And the phone number.
And the phone number also. Okay,
and the phone number that I'm being given to call this man matches. It is the area code and the number is correct.
And I believe they call that spoofing.
Correct. Well, of course, I
right, you didn't know that, right?
So anyway, I did call that number because, as I said, on the website, which I believe was a legit website.
Right.
So I called, and this James Parikh, who told me, call me Jim, and he went on to let me know that I was a victim of attempted fraud. Wow.
Okay.
And that I had come to their attention because 3 packages had been intercepted at the border. That one or all 3 packages had contained either one or more of the following. They had contained cash, I forget how many thousands of dollars. So I was being charged now. I'm being charged with money laundering. There were fraudulent credit cards.
Right.
There were fraudulent IDs, driver's licenses, everything. And drugs. So they had me with drug smuggling, money laundering, and all this other stuff going on. So, of course, since I had already checked out that this was a legit call, of course, I started panicking.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm crying. I'm so upset because I consider myself a very strong, very intelligent, woman that would never fall for that. And I've gone around advising many people not to do this and not to do that. So like I said, The guy's telling me, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And now that I know they were probably going to, use my voice to commit probably more fraud. That's why they didn't want me crying. They wanted me to sound, in a normal voice.
Correct.
Anyway, so then I didn't believe it. So then they sent me a paper, a copy of, so then they asked me if I was willing to cooperate. They would quash the warrant that was out for my arrest.
Okay.
They would quash the warrant because he says, you sound believable. I believe that you are not somebody's scamming you. And and he says, are you willing to cooperate? And I said, absolutely. So he says, okay, we have to start an investigation, but we need more information, and so on and so forth. So then he sends me a non-disclosure agreement.
Did he mail it or did he email it?
Email.
Emailed
He
it.
emailed,
Email.
yeah. So he emailed a non-disclosure agreement with about 4 or 5 pages. And so he said, please read this non-disclosure agreement. And he says, do you agree to all of that? And I said, I agree. So then he asked me to, on a separate piece of paper, to write, I and Anita Ritter have hereby agree to the terms and conditions of the non-disclosure agreement that I have received, and that I will cooperate with the authorities, blah, 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 and sign it, which unfortunately I did. And then he says, take a photocopy of that, what you have just signed, along with your driver's license, and email it to me.
Oh my goodness.
And unfortunately, again, I did.
Right. Okay.
So that was the end of the first day. Then he says, okay, we will, we'll continue this investigation tomorrow. So on the second day is when they then sent me a copy from the district court in Texas Division in El Paso in Texas.
Right.
Because that is supposedly where all this documents that are being sent to me that have been intercepted. So that's where the lawsuit has to take place. So again, I Googled the district court, and yes, that is their address. This is the phone number.
Everything looked legit.
Everything was legit.
Yeah.
Everything was legit. And so again, I'm continuing the conversation. I'm continuing, talking to them. And then, but again, I guess I skipped a little. The reason that they really hooked me in almost at the very beginning is because they had my social security number.
Right.
Not only did they have my social security number, but they're asking me questions. You own property here.
Yep.
You own this cars. You own this. You own that, blah, blah, blah. Which 90% of it was correct. They had some cars. They had 3 cars registered in my name. I only own 1.
Yep.
So obviously somebody has led me to believe that somebody is using my name to register cars in their name, which is probably what they're using to transport drugs or whatever across the border. So again, like I said, all this that they kept telling me made sense. Yeah. And so anyway, so then the rest of the paperwork had to do with the reason that I did believe them, was that they had my social, and they knew that I have not filed my 2024 income tax. Wow. My CPA retired at the last, like in March, and I have not found somebody to do my filing.
That, yeah.
So who knows that?
Excellent.
Who has access to my social security number? Who has access to income tax information?
Unfortunately, it's out there, right? We know, like I told you, a lot of the information is out in the dark web.
Correct.
And there's some public records as well that they can pull on that
Correct.
one. So, Anita, this is probably, for our viewers, this scam is started as a technology scam because that's what the Microsoft technology scam, and then it started evolving. But guess what? They were trying to gain your trust.
Oh, yeah.
So it takes time. It takes a few days, right?
It took 3 days.
3 days.
Well, on the third day I started, and I'll tell you what really started the red flags, is that when they were trying to identify or confirm that I own these real estate properties, they had the condo that I live in is not in my name.
Okay.
I do have other properties that are not in my name that I do own. they're in other titled in other entities like a trust and so on and so forth. So then I realized that, well, maybe this is when I started questioning. Because why do they have this, but they don't have this?
So you started seeing some red flags there.
Well, and then at my leisure, after I had already agreed to comply and cooperate with the investigation, at my leisure, I started reading the non-disclosure agreement. And I'm anal. I am very, very particular about grammar, spelling, punctuation. And I'm reading this document that's supposedly from the government, and there's some typos.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's a big red flag.
I work for the government, and no, you do not. In the court, as you know, I work for law firms with all my legal experience and I thought, no, this is not a legit document. It can't be. So again, I make phone calls. I dial the numbers that are on these documents. Well, first of all, I went on the website to confirm that these area codes are legit.
Right.
And they are. The 202 and the 303 are legit. So anyway, so like I said, that night I started with the red flags. And so I made up my mind that the next day I was going to start asking questions.
Okay, very good. So I want you to hang on there because we're almost at the end of this segment.
Correct.
So I want to invite everybody watching us to tune in to the next show because that's where Anita will explain everything else that happened and how she was able to identify this scam. So again, thank you very much for joining us at Latino USA TV, Arizona Barrio Stories. Thank you so much for bringing this AARP segment. Stay tuned for next show.
So I get this weird text that says, I found your cat. Before you know it, we start texting like old friends until my old friend offers to help me invest in crypto.
Recognize fraud sooner with AARP, so your money lives longer.
I don't have a cat.
And we are back in this segment talking with our good friend Anita Ritter, telling us about the experience, kind of an ugly experience, but she was very bright and she was very savvy. She was able to identify a couple things there. She's going to tell us more about it. So we're going to hearing the story that Anita has. Anita, so you were telling us, so you're talking to these people and they're making you sign a non-disclosure agreement. You're very good with grammar. You taught, you're a very good educator. You identified some things in that letter that were misspelled. So that was a red flag there.
That's correct.
Yes. What else did you find?
Well, the other one, the other one was that when I did try calling the numbers again to confirm the district court in Texas and the Social Security number, the number that I was dialing because it was on my caller ID, a phone would ring and ring and ring, and there was absolutely no answer.
No answer there. Okay.
And then I would get a click. So I thought, okay, there's usually an automatic, recording. There wasn't on either one. So then, like I said, the fact that the condo that I live in is my husband's. It's his property. And they showed it as my property. So then I started, like I said, some of these little red flags. Then I remember being told, probably by AARP fraud.
The fraud watch
that I watched, that check the website.
Yes.
.org and .net, and sometimes the misspelled words and all kinds of things. And as a member of the American Legion Auxiliary, there had been a lot of attempts also to scam there, and they had also given us some warnings what to look out for. So like I said, after the third day, then I started calming down and thinking rationally. And so I started, like I said, making these phone calls. So then I thought, in the morning, I thought I couldn't sleep that night. Then it dawned on me, this is my word against theirs. If this matter should ever go to court, they'll make everything disappear on my email.
Absolutely.
They'll make everything disappear on my cell phone. It's going to be my word against theirs. And so I was at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm taking, with my cell phone, I'm taking photos of the documents. For example, the non-disclosure agreement, the letter from the Social Security Administration. I'm taking all these pictures. I even took a picture of the screen from supposedly Microsoft, where it gives all the viruses that, are infecting my computer.
Sure.
So like I said, I started taking all kinds of pictures. And then I thought, I need to get the voice recorded.
Absolutely.
If it goes to court now with,
Sure.
voice identification, I need this backup. And who of my neighbors, they're mostly, winter residents. I thought, who do I trust? Irma lives too far. But the only one I could think of was Irma Payan.
Yes.
And I thought,
Good
no,
choice.
I can't call her at this hour of the night to come over here, listen to this phone conversation, and on her cell phone to record this other guy telling me all this BS. Because by then I knew it was BS. And so I couldn't sleep. Finally, around 8 o'clock in the morning, I go to the bank. Well, they don't open until 9.
It's closed.
So I go back home, then I call the Scottsdale Police Department. And so they said, we don't have anybody right now, but in, 15, 20, 30 minutes, we'll send somebody to your house to take your complaint.
Okay.
And I thought, well, I've got to protect my money because in the meantime, these people had already sent me an application for a new Social Security number.
Oh, they wanted to change it, which
They wanted-
Social Security will never ask you to change your Social Security.
And that's what I'm saying. But see, these
Yes.
red flags started coming
Absolutely.
up after the second night. So anyway, so like I said, so then I thought, no, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And then I went to the bank.
Okay,
So
good.
then I thought, no, I can't wait for the police department. The bank opens at 9. I went, there's about 8 people in line. I said, excuse me, I need to be first in line. So
Emergency here.
Yeah, well, then I told them I've got frauds, scamming and all that. So yeah, they let her go. So they let me.
That's wonderful.
So I was first in line. As soon as they opened, I ran to the manager's office.
Sure.
And I told him, and man, right away, it's really funny. So while I'm talking to the bank manager and they're checking, make sure there's been no attempts on any of my accounts.
Good. No money had been pulled.
That is correct.
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
I get a phone call, and on my caller ID, it says Scottsdale Police Department.
Oh my God.
So I answered it, and it is Scottsdale PD.
Okay.
And he says to me, Anita, we are supposed to come to your house. I'm confirming your home so I can come and take the police report. I said, no, I'm at the bank.
Yes.
And then he said what mimicked what these scammers had been telling. No, you're not supposed to talk to anybody. Don't talk to anybody. There's no guarantee that that's going to protect your money. Blah. So I hung up on him because I thought, oh, this is not Scottsdale PD.
Right.
So anyway, so he calls a second time. I don't answer it. The bank says, don't answer it. He calls a third time. And so the bank manager says, let me take the call.
Wonderful.
So he tells him, this is
Yep.
so-and-so, identify yourself. So he did, and so he told me, if you want to talk to her, you have to come to this bank in front of us, blah, blah, blah. So the bank, it was so funny, it's like a comedy now when I think about it. They took me to the back
Room.
in the corner in the dark, whatever, and they locked me in an office.
Wow.
And they said, you're not to come out unless we open the door for you. So in the meantime, there is a Scottsdale police officer that's a security guard there at the bank. So they told him, we have to make sure that if a police officer comes, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So they took care of that. So then he was legit. They knew each other. They're both from the same branch. So we then went into the manager's office, and I made my report to the bank, to the police department at the same time. And he's putting everything down on his computer. Then fortunately, I had the foresight to make all these photocopies.
Absolutely.
Photos of the computer screen, my cell phone, everything else. And so he was downloading everything onto his
Excellent.
computer.
Good.
So that got taken care of, and the bank assured me your money's all your accounts, nothing's been touched, nothing can be touched. You are well protected.
Good.
And then
Something that you mentioned before the show started is that you were very glad that the bank got trained by ARB Bank Safe.
I was coming to that.
Very excited to hear that.
Okay, so this is today. I had to go take care of clean up some more business with the bank. So while I'm there, I'm letting them know that you have been kind enough to invite me to be interviewed today on this fraud. Because this is what ARP
Absolutely,
really
the safe
advocates.
Yeah, correct.
And so she says this is she is the financial advisor.
Right.
And the bank manager both informed me, I'm so glad you're being interviewed by AARP because that's where we get our training.
That's fantastic.
So
glad that it's working.
You are in good hands. So I said, well, I've been a volunteer for AARP for 15 years or so. So they were glad to hear that. Okay, so that happened
fantastic,
today.
yeah.
But going back, so anyway, so we take care of all that. The police officer gives me all this that I still have to do. I have to contact the credit bureau. I have to notify them. I have to contact Social Security. I have to there's a lot that I have to do on my end, and I still have to give some more information to Scottsdale PD.
Yes.
So listen to this. So I go home and I get a phone call, and the caller ID said Scottsdale PD.
Okay. So you're thinking again.
Right. So
Police
I
department.
pick it up, and he says to me, Anita, you were supposed to call me at such and such. I've got an email. In the meantime, I've had a text message that I ignored. So he says, you're supposed to call me at such and such a time. We have to get some more information because we need to get you your new Social Security number. And so I said,
red flag.
So then I laughed and I said, you're awful funny. And I said, you should be a comedian. I said, and he says, this is not funny. This is serious business, Anita. It's your money they're trying to scam you out of. I said, yes, you are. And I said, and you know what? I'm talking to Scottsdale PD right now.
Right.
Of course I wasn't.
Exactly.
And so he says, he was real quiet for a minute. And then he says, you're talking to Scottsdale PD? I said, yes, would you like to talk to me? And then in a very angry tone of voice, he says, yes. He says, put him on the line. So I pretended, of course, that I was putting the police officer. And then I went back on the line to tell him he doesn't want to talk to you. But the line was dead.
They had already hung up immediately.
But I have received one more phone call, one more email, one more text message, I should say, from this guy, Jim, who is supposed to be in charge of scams and so on and so forth for Social Security Administration, trying to get me again to contact them. And of course, I'm just ignoring them.
Absolutely.
But the problem, as I said, they're so good that they were able to spoof not only the phone number, the name, the title, everything.
Yes.
For Social Security Administration and for the district court in Texas.
Oh, it's unbelievable what they can do.
Everybody, I'm telling you, please hang up. And if you're on the computer, I've been told, unplug your computer.
Yes.
As soon as you unplug the computer, they have no access to your computer.
Exactly. That's the best advice. If you ever get a pop-up that says, computer's been infected, unplug the computer, turn it off completely.
And even if it's Microsoft, because that's what happened to me. So now they're even spoofing, with that AI, they probably can clone me.
Yeah, no,
So
unfortunately.
this is me. I am the legit Anita here. But telling you, this is scary. This is really scary.
It is real life. We live it on a daily basis, unfortunately. But I'm so proud of you because you were able to identify those red flags. You did not lose anything.
Correct. That is correct.
But time, the time that you spent those 3 days.
A lot of my tears.
Anguish that you had, tears. Unfortunately, you went through that experience. But I'm so proud of you, Anita. And that's why it's so important that our viewers can learn from this. So hopefully more people can identify these red flags out there. Remember, we have the AARP Fraud Watch Network. So you can either go online at aarp.org/Fraud Watch, or you can do Fraud Watch Network. Either one of those URLs works. Or you can call the 800 number. It's 877-908-3360. 877-908-3360. You can report any of these type of fraud type of schemes that people are trying. We need to know of them. We've got to report these to the federal government, to the FBI, FTC, etc. So make sure that you report those. Anita, yes.
And again, what I did, I really highly recommend that you take photos if it's something, an email on your screen.
Yes.
If it's whatever you're getting that you can either download, please do so. Do so. I also was able to download the non-disclosure agreement.
Absolutely.
And guess who I sent it to? Irma Payan, and she printed it out for me.
Good.
So I have hard copies of that non-disclosure agreement.
You're in good hands there.
From the district court in
Absolutely.
Texas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anita, I want to thank you so much. And we're at the end of the show, but I want to thank you because you're so brave to come in the show and talk to the audience. So thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. If I can save at least one person from getting scammed, it's well worth it.
Yes. Yeah. So to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us on this AARP Arizona show. USA Latino TV thanks you. Arizona Barrio Stories thanks you for joining us, for viewing us. And again, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. I'm Alex Juarez.